State's most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. We've got another cloudy day with highs in the 60s. Hopefully this wind will go away soon. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Still fighting the wind too, Tanya. It's coming in from the south, 21 miles per hour outside of Television City. Sitting at a comfortable 58 degrees, but we've got a cold front on the backside of this cloud cover. Staying on the dry side for most of the morning. Still do have that red flag warning in effect for the far northwestern section of the 4 states, lasting until about 6 o'clock. That wind just didn't die down after sunset. We're still talking about gusts close to 25, 30 miles per hour, even at 5 a.m. But temperature-wise, we're throwing up 60s still in Fort Scott, Nevada. Let's throw Grove in there as well. 58 in Joplin, 56 in Independence, and 55 in Monette. Now, what we'll see is this cold Canadian air begin to make its way in. That's what's going to make it chilly here for the middle part of the week. Still not too bad today, though, as we'll make it up into about the mid-60s. Do have a slight chance for some rain as the cloud cover builds for this afternoon. Number one, there it comes in from the southwest. You're really going to have to duck down to the southeastern 4 states to see any of that precipitation, and it's not going to be anything severe. Really kind of rolls through northwest Arkansas for the most part. We'd be looking at it probably late tonight into early Wednesday morning, and then kind of taking us into Wednesday until we get the clearing of the clouds. Now, after that, clearing of the clouds also means we lose any of that warmth that we picked up, so that's why we're stuck in the 50s for Wednesday and Thursday. But then on Friday, we got a nice little rebound, get us back into the 60s. Still looking at what is going to be a delightful Easter Sunday with mostly sunny skies, just a slight chance for rain there, and temperatures all the way up into the 70s.
I'm looking forward to temperatures in the 70s. That's going to be
Yeah,
great.
and really the cold front's not too bad. There's only one night where we dip below freezing, and that's not an anomaly for this time of year. We see it roll in from Canada every now and then, and we'll rebound right back into the 60s.
Still a warning to go protect your plants.
Yup.
All right, thanks, Michael. The state of Kansas moved into the last phase of coronavirus vaccine distribution, and that means everyone in the state 16 years and older is now eligible for the vaccine. Walker Drug in Baxter Springs yesterday held a small vaccine clinic, something they originally hadn't planned on doing but chose to do after getting calls from people interested in the vaccine. Many of our local health departments will continue to offer vaccine clinics that are appointment-based.
But at some point, if the numbers don't sustain the number of people that it takes to put that on, then we'll probably explore some different options, whether that's in-house vaccinations at the health department or going to different locations throughout the county, kind of a scaled down version of what we're doing currently.
A few walk-in clinics are scheduled in Crawford County this week, and we have more information about those on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Oklahoma yesterday entered phase 4 of its COVID-19 vaccine rollout plan, and that means, like Kansas, Oklahoma has now opened vaccines to all residents ages 16 and older. Governor Kevin Stitt and state health officials held a press conference yesterday about how to discuss the move. The governor says nearly 2 million vaccines have already been distributed in the state. 800,000 more Missourians are eligible for COVID-19 vaccines. Missouri yesterday entered phase 2 of the state's COVID-19 vaccine eligibility plan. This opens up eligibility to Missourians employed in construction, critical manufacturing, and remaining food sectors, and includes those working in restaurants. Larry Bergner from the Newton County Health Department stresses how important it is that food service employees are now eligible.
Restaurant sector, they need to be vaccinated because they're dealing with a large amount of the public as they come in to those dining facilities, and then those who are working in the kitchens and doing the other work in the restaurant, they need to protect themselves as much as possible.
On April 9th, Missouri will enter phase 3, opening up eligibility for all adults in the state. A fire at 1622 South New Hampshire Avenue in Joplin is ruled accidental. That's according to the Joplin Fire Department. The fire happened Friday night. No one was injured. City of Carl Junction, Missouri is reintroducing a use tax. If passed, it would tax online purchases at an amount equal to the city's sales tax, which is 3%. City officials say it's needed to fund improvements to city parks, sidewalks, and streets.
To generate a little bit more revenue for the city, We have several projects that have been ongoing over several years that we just don't have the funds to complete, and we need to get those completed.
Residents can learn more about the proposed use tax at a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. at Randy's Drive-In. Most Kansans and Missourians will soon have to dial all 10 phone number digits when making local calls. Change applies to people living in area code 620 and 785 in Kansas and 417-314-660 and 816 in Missouri. It's because of an FCC decision last July approving 988 as the new abbreviated number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Callers are encouraged to begin using 10-digit calling for local calls on April 24th as a sort of a practice period. Beginning October 24th, callers must use 10-digit dialing or the call will not go through. Cold weather rule in Kansas ends this Wednesday, meaning people owing money on electric or natural gas bills could have their service disconnected. Payment options are available for people who need financial help, but customers need to call for help before Wednesday. A bill banning gender reassignment surgery and hormonal treatments for trans youth until they turn 18 passed the Arkansas Senate on Monday. The bill has already cleared the state house and now heads to the governor. Meanwhile, trans advocates are pushing back. Kendall Ashman has the story.
My son will be devastated if he is forced to stop his hormone treatment.
Joanna Brandt, along with other LGBTQ advocates and the American Academy of Pediatrics board president, spoke out against House Bill 1570 during a Zoom session today. Among the speakers was actress Laverne Cox.
Any decisions about the health care of trans youth should be made between that transgender young person, their parent, and their doctor. The government has no place in these decisions.
It's called the Arkansas Save Adolescents from Experimentation SAFE Act. The bill bans doctors from providing gender transition procedures, hormonal treatment, and referrals for procedures and treatments.
This basically says, let's get them to 18 and then let them make a decision.
Sponsor of this bill, Representative Lundstrom, says this bill aims to protect children.
These kids deserve to be protected and loved and cherished. And let's let them get to 18 before they make a serious decision that they can't take back.
Evelyn Rios Stafford, who says she's the first trans woman to work as an elected official in Arkansas, says the bill is one of the most extreme bans against trans people in the country and sends a negative message to LGBTQ Arkansans.
We are talking about, a small number of youth, but an important number of youth. All of the youth in our state matter.
I'm passionate about protecting children. This is life altering. They need to get to be 18 before they make a life-changing decision.
Governor Asa Hutchinson has not said whether he will sign it or not. The National ACLU said in the Zoom session if he does sign it, they will file a lawsuit. It's 5:07.
Little sunrise, a little after 7 o'clock. Still windy out there, and we're going to see a dramatic shift in the winds as it will eventually work in from the north and do so at 10 to 20 miles an hour this afternoon. Going to be mostly cloudy by the time we get to the noon hour. Temperature's not too bad, really right on par for where we'd anticipate being to wrap up March. Cold front is on the way though, going to drop us down into the 50s on Wednesday and Thursday before we begin our slow climb back into the 60s for a delightful Easter weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, yesterday was opening day for Colgan's softball team. As they host the Liberal Bulldogs, we'll have highlights from the game. Plus, a new trial is underway to help determine what people can safely do once fully vaccinated and why it's a great day to show appreciation for your doctor. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Yesterday, opening day for the Colgan softball team. Colgan with an interstate matchup right off the bat, hosting the Liberal Bulldogs. We're going to pick up action in the top of the first inning. Caitlin Crossland in the circle. You see 7 strikeouts and 3 innings of work for Crossland. Bottom half, Colgan. Grace Wixon shoots it up the middle, scores Allie Marietta. Panthers on the board. Later in the inning, Lauren Yagmore shoots it through the infield. That's going to score 1 Emma Brill. There's Gabby Riddell. At that point, 5-0 Colgan. Check it out. Not done yet. Ashley Marietta over everybody's head. That's going to score 2 runs. Marietta rounds third. Just thinking about it. All Colgan yesterday. Panthers win this thing 15-0. Over to football after a big win over 10th-ranked Southern Illinois. Missouri State now in the top 25 in the national rankings as far as the FCS category goes. Bears number 19. Missouri State 4-4 overall, 4-1 this spring after going 0-3 in the fall. Bears' next two games have been canceled, so the only game left on the regular season schedule is going to be April 10th when they host Youngstown State. Pittsburgh High School girls soccer team playing its season opener tonight at Carthage. First game ever for the PHS girls program, and it's the result of 2+ years of work from a pair of girls on the team. Our own sports director, Jacob Leonard, with the story.
2 years ago, it was just an idea.
We just wanted to provide a different outlet for girls that did want to play, because originally we only had 2 people playing.
Natalie Talent and her teammate Katie Rodriguez were playing with the boys on the PHS co-ed soccer team in 2019 until they decided it was time to have a team of their own.
As soon as the girls went through that process and got the approval from the school board, we just saw a massive increase with the interest and the numbers that came out to play.
Now we have a team of 26 girls that you never would have known liked soccer if there wasn't a girls soccer team.
The Pittsburgh girls play their first game in program history Tuesday night against Carthage. Their entire 10-game schedule is made up of teams from Missouri or teams from Wichita, Topeka, or Gardner, Kansas, with a lack of other girls soccer programs in southeast Kansas.
You know, we're just doing what we can to do things now that will lead to success later. You know, maybe once we get our program established, other schools can do the same.
For Talent, it's not about the wins and losses, it's about opportunity.
There are a lot of people that don't think we should have started, that we wouldn't have enough girls, you know, that our school's not big enough, and that the program will drop off after the momentum of getting the first team. And I think it's a great opportunity to prove those people wrong.
And regardless of how this season goes, she knows that idea 2 years ago has turned into something that will have an impact on this team and the girls that come after.
20 years later, I'm going to look back and I'm going to think, wow, 20 years ago we started soccer. And it's just really powerful to think that it just takes a couple conversations and something big can happen that can change a lot of people's lives, because soccer is not just a sport to play, but an outlet for a lot of people and a place to come together and blend culturally and blend, you know, with so many differences.
Only by Natalie Talent, also Katie Rodriguez. Congratulations to the both of you on seeing this come to fruition. And also to Coach Bach. Best of luck to you, man. You know I love you. Pittsburgh plays at Carthage tonight before playing the home opener on Thursday against Neosho. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, findings of the origins of COVID-19.
WHO prepares to release its report on the origins of COVID-19 as Europe battles another wave of the virus. Good luck on London. That's my story. Coming up.
And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. 58 degrees on this Tuesday morning, very mild, and temperature-wise, reason being that wind, it hasn't budged on us. We still do have a red flag warning running in the northwest, not as expansive certainly as what it was yesterday. The wind's slowly beginning to calm, and it'll get better as the time we get to sunrise. But another thing we're going to see, indicated with the arrows, is a shift in the wind as it'll eventually move in from the north and kind of cool us down here by the time we get to the middle of the week. That being said, still 58 in Joplin, 56 in Independence, and a pair of 60s running up in Fort Scott and Nevada. Cloud cover creeping in from the west and the north, but we'll stay on the dry side. We don't have to worry about any travel concerns. We're kind of just hanging on right here on the southeast side of the jet stream. The trough coming out of Canada, bottoming out right there around Denver. That's where you're going to see the cold front. And I mean, they're dropping down into the teens right now compared to us hanging on the 60s. We're right on par with really DFW and a whole bunch of communities down to the southwest. So like I said, for this time of the morning, for this time of year, not too bad at all. Not a whole lot of action east of the Mississippi on the other side of the jet stream, and we'll pay attention to not only the cooler temperatures, but eventually some Gulf moisture that begins to work in. So we'll go with an increasing cloud cover through today. The wind, when it does shift, actually just 10 to 20 miles per hour. So that'll be nice to kind of get a break from not getting blown around too much. And then mostly cloudy overnight with rain in our far southeast counties into Wednesday morning. I mean, far southeast. Most of it's really going to roll through central and northwest Arkansas. But you'll notice the temperature is going to drop down here overnight. And there's another round that just kind of roll through. We're not looking at anything severe. It just doesn't want to give up too easy. But then on Wednesday, as the cloud cover does clear, that's going to drop us down to the 50s for both Wednesday and Thursday. Nice little rebound headed into the weekend. Still looking at a great Easter Sunday. Slight chance of rain. Don't let that cancel your plans. And highs around 70 degrees. Time now to turn our attention to the KOAM News Now Facebook page. A year in the coronavirus pandemic, and healthcare workers are still pulling long hours and exposing themselves to the virus. Today, take a moment to say thanks, as it is National Doctor Day. It's an observance that's been around since 1933. This year, especially poignant. Doctors are critical every day, every year. Keep us well, cure diseases. And here's an opportunity to let your personal doctor know how much you appreciate their service. By posting a social media message, send a card. Do not surprise a hospital staff with goodies. That was in this as a no. You don't know. We're not doing that today because they don't want you in the front doors. Let's just practice our social distance on that. Our question to you on the KOAM News Now Facebook page: are there any doctors you would like to recognize? Let us know, and we will pass along those messages that you send to us and take part in our Insta poll. KOAMNewsNow.com/vote. I don't think it's any coincidence we'll be back with Health Watch next.
Don't let the change. Topping Health Watch this morning, it's the $1 million question. What can Americans safely do and not do after being fully vaccinated? Right now, a trial is underway to help come up with a new answer. Mandy Gaither has more.
They're doing their part to help stop the spread of COVID-19, rolling up their sleeves, getting fully vaccinated. Still, there's a lot they're advised not to do, but a new clinical trial may change that.
This will help inform science-based decisions about mask use and about social distancing post-vaccination.
Right now, for those fully vaccinated, the CDC is still advising against travel and continues to recommend masks and social distancing unless around a small group of other fully vaccinated people or with those who are low risk, unvaccinated, and from a single household. The trial now underway is looking into how COVID-19 may spread by studying 12,000 college students at more than 20 universities across the U.S.
We hope that within the next 5 or so months, we'll be able to answer the very important question about whether vaccinated people get infected asymptomatically, and if they do they transmit the infection to others?
One group of 6,000 students will get Moderna's vaccine immediately. The other half will get the vaccine 4 months later. The students will fill out questionnaires and will swab their noses daily, as well as provide blood samples. Their close contacts will also provide samples.
When these people get infected, how often is that? If they're asymptomatic, how much virus do they have in their nose? And do they transmit it to people who are their close contacts?
Those answers will help form recommendations on the future for the fully vaccinated. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
The trial could answer if fully vaccinated people will still need to keep physical distance from others and continue wearing masks so as not to get other people sick. Working long hours after you've recovered from a heart attack may increase your chances of a second heart attack. A new study in the Journal of American College of Cardiology shows that heart attack patients who return to working nearly 55 hours a week are twice as likely to have more cardiac trouble. The study also finds men and younger employees tend to work more hours. There may be a link between glaucoma and dementia. Australian researchers say people living with normal tension glaucoma are 2 times more likely to experience cognitive decline. Researchers are working to determine exactly why. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Wind is starting to die down on us a little bit. It's not as bad as what it was yesterday. It's still picking up gusts though. 25 miles per hour, increasing cloud cover throughout today. Sunrise at 7:08. still able to make it up into the 60s. Now this rain that shows up on today's panel going to be far southeastern counties south of I-44, and it's going to be nothing severe. Look at the cooler temperatures right there for Wednesday and Thursday, down into the 50s before we rebound for the 60s, and still looking at a great Easter Sunday.
Kansas moves into the final vaccination phase, how local pharmacies are handling the increased demand. Plus, Missouri enters phase 2 of its vaccination plan. We'll tell you who is eligible and what a proposed use tax could mean for Coral Junction residents.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. It's going to be a cloudy day, but we've got highs in the low 60s today. Not too shabby. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Yeah, Tanya, good morning to you. And temperature is not going to be too bad at all. I mean, we're already sitting close to 60 degrees, but we got a cold front moving in, and at the same point in time, we're still fighting winds of 20 miles per hour. Now, despite the fact that our temperature, our humidity, is already down to 47%, we have been able to escape most of the red flag warnings. We do have them running up to the far northwest. Still, be very, very careful. Best thing to do, honestly, is call your local fire department if you need to do any outdoor burning today. Take their advice. Heed their advice, if you will. Wind gusts coming in from the south right now, still ranging up around 25 miles per hour. 58 is what we find in Joplin and in Pittsburgh, 57 in Lamar. We're all 58s as well in Parsons and Oswego. There's the fine line of the warmer temperatures because the jet stream's grabbing everything from Canada and sweeping it down, and it's going to drop down to the southeast, put us in the 50s with overnight lows in the 30s here for the middle of the week. So this may be the best day if you want to go for a walk this afternoon or evening. It is going to be comfortable even with the clouds, still able to make it up into the mid-60s. Any rain that we do see is going to formulate later tonight, going to be south of I-44, far southeast counties. Most of it's going to stay through central and northwest Arkansas, and we're not looking at anything severe even when we do get the raindrops that could last into Wednesday morning. After that, skies clear off. Temperatures, woo, down to the 50s. The overnight lows are really the thing I've been eyeballing right there. And drop below freezing there in between Wednesday and Thursday. Luckily, we won't have any precipitation that'll flip over, cause any problems. And then we rebound back into the 60s for the weekend and looking at a great Easter Sunday. How about 70 degrees? Any of that rain that we do see is going to be very light and scattered. Shouldn't cancel any plans. We'll actually end up with partly sunny skies on Sunday.
Yeah, you can't complain about that.
No, see, it'll be great.
Looking forward to that. All right, thanks, Michael. The state of Kansas moved into the last phase of coronavirus vaccine distribution, and that means everyone in the state 16 years and older is now eligible for the vaccine. Walker Drug in Baxter Springs yesterday held a small vaccine clinic, something they hadn't originally planned on doing, but chose to do after getting calls from people interested in the vaccine. Many of our local health departments will continue to offer vaccine clinics that are appointment-based.
But at some point, if the numbers don't sustain the number of people that it takes to put that on, then we'll probably explore some different options, whether that's in-house vaccinations at the health department or going to different locations throughout the county, kind of a scaled down version of what we're doing currently.
A few walk-in clinics are scheduled in Crawford County this week, and we'll have more information about those on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Missouri just entered phase 2 of the state's COVID-19 vaccine eligibility plan. This opened up eligibility to Missourians employed in construction, critical manufacturing, and remaining food sectors. They're also opening it up to those experiencing homelessness. Larry Bergner from the Newton County Health Department explains how those groups will be taken care of.
I know there's a couple of groups that are trying to make contact with some of the homeless, and they'll fill the paperwork out and take care of them as they kind of roam about the community and know where those pockets of homeless people are. They'll go and take care of that group.
On April 9th, Missouri will enter phase 3, opening up eligibility for all adults in the state. Seniors in St. Louis have been complaining about how difficult it is to sign up for appointments to get the COVID-19 vaccine. A group called the Women's Pandemic Resistance Group has teamed up with students at Washington University to help solve that problem. Volunteers knocked on doors in North St. Louis to educate residents about vaccine appointments. They showed many residents without internet access how to use the city's new telephone hotline for vaccine registration. Organizers say the problem in this community is not so much vaccine hesitancy, it's access to medical care.
Do a door-to-door campaign to do two things: to give a number that people can call so that they can get registered, and number two, let that community know that there's a lot of folks who care about them.
In some ways, this is kind of our responsibility to make sure that not only is it, a moral rollout of these vaccinations, but also an effective one. Because as long as there's big swaths of our community that aren't being reached, it's not going to be an effective rollout of the vaccine.
Organizers say the goal of the pandemic resistance group is to make sure no one who needs a vaccine is left behind. COVID-19 has been forcing the separation of family and friends for more than a year. Now vaccines are finally allowing people to reunite. Ellen Shope joins an elderly mother and her daughter for the joyous occasion.
A tune about freedom.
It was so exciting.
A chance to see the sun, feel the wind, and share a song or two with another person for the first time in over a year.
It felt so great. It was like a new life.
84-year-old Anne-Marie Timmons has been waiting and practicing for this day, her first to get out, get in a car, and go to a park.
I just didn't even try to get out.
Mom and daughter both recently fully vaccinated.
It's very hard for each one of us to be locked up that long.
Something Anne-Marie understands. As a child, she survived Nazi Germany, escaping to America as a teen.
It's very healing to see things.
It's been a year in a single-room apartment, writing poetry and playing songs, alone.
Just down again and then up, and that's just how life is.
But this day, a great day.
Wow.
A first hug in over a year.
My biggest thing is really to appreciate what I do have now rather than missing what I'm missing.
Anne-Marie says playing the harmonica in the park with her kids is the first thing she wanted to do after getting vaccinated. She's pretty good at it too. City of Carl Junction, Missouri is reintroducing a use tax. If passed, it would tax online purchases at an amount equal to the city's sales tax, which is 3%. City officials say it's needed to fund improvements to city parks, sidewalks, and streets.
To generate a little bit more revenue for the city, we have several projects that have been ongoing over several years that we just don't have the funds to complete, and we need to get those completed.
Residents can learn more about the proposed use tax at a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. at Randy's Drive-In. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, our own Jesse Irwin gets an update on the new Connect to Culture building and some upcoming performances online. Plus, a report from the World Health Organization receives criticism from some public health officials. We'll have the latest there, but first, it's 5:37.
While it won't be as windy as it was yesterday, the wind will play a factor coming in from the south right now at 20 miles an hour. It will gradually shift and come in from the north later on this afternoon and evening, an indicator that we're going to have a little bit of a cold front on the way in back of our increased cloud cover as the 7-day forecast dips us into the 50s on Wednesday and Thursday. Back into the 60s for the weekend and a great look in Easter Sunday. How about some 70s up on the board? Be back with World Watch right after this.
Topping World Watch, after more than a year of lockdowns, the World Health Organization is preparing to make public its findings into the origins of COVID-19. But the report is drawing criticism from some public health officials. Greg Palcott has more.
The World Health Organization expects to release its long-awaited report on the origins of COVID-19 Tuesday. According to a draft obtained by the Associated Press, researchers maintain the virus was most likely transmitted from bats to humans through another animal. Scientists say the theories that the virus leaked from a lab are extremely unlikely, but WHO officials are not ruling out further research.
All hypotheses are on the table and warrant complete and further studies from what have seen so far.
The data is based largely on a visit by WHO experts to Wuhan, China, where the virus was first discovered. The report's release has been repeatedly delayed, raising questions about Beijing's influence over the findings. Today, the Biden administration said more than a dozen U.S. experts are reviewing the report.
We have been clear that an independent
technically sound investigation is what our focus is on. And once this is reviewed, we'll have an assessment about the steps forward.
Meanwhile, European officials are still trying to contain a third wave of the virus. Leaders in France and Germany warn rising infections could soon overwhelm hospitals. But here in the UK, officials are easing lockdown measures, allowing people to gather outdoors in groups of up to 6 people.
It's really wonderful to see everybody. I haven't seen most of these people at all since we've been under lockdown.
More than 57% of UK adults have received their first dose of a coronavirus vaccine. An oil refinery goes up in flames, prompting mass evacuations in Indonesia. Huge flames and black smoke poured from the Indonesian state oil company Pertamina after a large explosion on Monday. The fire engulfed several storage tanks in the West Java province location, forcing the evacuation of some 900 people in a nearby village. At least 6 people suffered injuries. No word on what caused the fire, but the company noted it broke out during a heavy thunderstorm. Pertamina hopes to restore operations in 4 to 5 days. Authorities at an airport on one of the Galapagos Islands finds a suitcase containing an endangered species of turtle. 185 endangered baby land turtles were found inside luggage on Baltra Island, part of the Galapagos Islands off the coast of Ecuador. The reptiles were found individually wrapped in plastic inside luggage and were less than 3 months old. 10 of the turtles had died, but the surviving turtles were placed in the care of a team from the Galapagos National Park. Officials believe they were headed for mainland Ecuador for species trafficking. These kinds of turtles can apparently be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Glad they got them back. Prince William gets crowned for his chrome dome. The Duke of Cambridge is dubbed the world's sexiest bald man. According to The Sun, which includes data from cosmetic surgery specialist Longevita, researchers say the 38-year-old William was called sexy nearly 18 million times online. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson jokingly tweeted that he was demanding a recount because comedian Larry David didn't get the nod. After Prince William, the top 5 sexiest bald men were Mike Tyson, Jason Statham, yes, Pitbull, and Michael Jordan. No complaints on Prince William, though. He deserves it. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our something to talk about. Yes, you know I like Jason Statham.
I can't follow that story up. That was tremendous. I had no idea that they did World's Sexiest Bald Man, and I do.
Why not?
I love The Rock wanting to recount.
He wasn't even in the top 5.
I know, that surprised me.
Huh.
Like Michael Jordan was
No,
above The
definitely
Rock?
not.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson?
I did like your reaction to Jason Statham, though. All right, Tanya, our something to talk about on the KOAM News Now Facebook page. It is National Doctors Day. Give you a chance to recognize a doctor in your life, and we'll start off with our moment of levity from Rocky Cunningham. Kind of partial to Dr. Pepper. Might have to switch to Dr. Thunder the way Biden's working out. Thank you, Rocky. Love you, Aunt Pat. I like Roy's player there with the Happy Doctors Day below it. Judy Merriman wants to recognize Kent McIntyre. Brian Gideon, his heart doc, Dr. Bogomolov of the Walker Heart Institute in Fayetteville. Richard McNally would like to recognize the late Dr. R. Cooper. Christina Odette, Dr. Catherine Elizabeth Garrett with Freeman Children's Clinic. She is wonderful, Christina says. Michelle Pacini, good morning, KOM. Good morning, Michelle. Dr. Carter in St. Paul, super nice, caring, down to earth, always taking that moment out of his busy day when you need to let you know we got this. His staff also always really nice, greets you with smiles the moment you walk in the clinic. Have a blessed day, everyone. We'll continue to recognize our 4 state doctors throughout the course of our show. Come back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The head of the CDC is pleading for Americans to not let their guards down just yet as coronavirus cases climb in at least half the country. 17 states have erased their mask mandates. President Biden is asking governors to consider reinstating them. The state of Kansas moved into the last phase of coronavirus vaccine distribution, and that means everyone in the state 16 years and older is now eligible for the vaccine. Walker Drug in Baxter Springs yesterday held a small vaccine clinic, something they hadn't originally planned on doing, but chose to do after getting calls from people interested in the vaccine. Many of our local health departments will continue to offer vaccine clinics that are appointment-based. A few walk-in clinics are scheduled in Crawford County this week. 800,000 more Missourians are eligible for COVID-19 vaccines. Missouri yesterday entered phase 2 of the state's COVID-19 vaccination eligibility plan, and this opens up eligibility to Missourians employed in construction, critical manufacturing, and remaining food sectors, and includes those working in restaurants. On April 9th, Missouri will enter phase 3, opening up eligibility for all adults in the state. City of Carl Junction, Missouri is reintroducing a use tax. If passed, it would tax online purchases at an amount equal to the city's sales tax, which is 3%. City officials say it's needed to fund improvements to city parks, sidewalks, and streets. Residents can learn more about the proposed use tax at a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. at Randy's Drive-In. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Clear start on our Tuesday morning. Day planner shows increasing cloud cover and a big shift in the winds. While it's a little bit blustery still this morning, certainly not as bad as what it was yesterday afternoon though. It's going to work from south to north later on this afternoon. That's going to do two things. It's going to bring us a chance for very slight scattered rain on the south side of I-44. Not looking at anything severe. But then as this cloud cover wears off on Wednesday, much cooler temperatures, 50s for daily highs middle of the week, and overnight lows dropping down into the 30s. Quick little rebound for Friday and Saturday as we got 60s to close out the work week and head into the weekend, and still looking at a great Easter Sunday around 70 degrees. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this. As March comes to a close and summer within sight, that also means more events and programs that we can now check out. Our own Jesse Irwin stopped in downtown Joplin to meet up with Connect Culture's Emily Frankowski at the site of the organization's future home, the Cornell Complex.
Well, it is a bright and sunny day here in Joplin. We are downtown and we are joined by our friend Emily Frankowski, who we're seeing in person for the first time in a while. But
yes.
Emily, I'm happy to be able to talk to you this morning because we are outside of the future home of Connect Culture.
Yes.
The Cornell Complex, and construction's underway. This is really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, the future home of the arts right behind us, you know, Spiva, Connect Culture, Pro Musica, everyone, you know, we can't wait. They, you know, we're expected to be complete with the project by late 2022, so in just a few, you know, less than a year.
Yeah.
I would say we're going to be entertaining people inside there, so it's definitely going to be different.
Emily, I know we have a ton of different events, performances, exhibits, classes, I mean, you name it.
Yes.
They're all available, and every month we go over these. I want to go over some of the events and performances first. So let's start with performances.
Performances, why not? So, as you know, Connect Culture usually has in-person performances. Right now, we're doing some online performances in collaboration with the Sheldon that's in St. Louis, Missouri. And for these, we have 3 different artists. We just finished up with Sarah Giroux. She's a great indie folk artist. And coming up is Zakir Hussain, who is sometimes called the father of classical world music. He's a master tabla virtuoso player, which is just amazing. I mean, the way he plays these special Indian drums, your hands might fall off. It's so fast and the rhythm is amazing. So this is one of the best tabla virtuoso players you'll ever see. So tune in, and it's free, and you don't have to register or anything. Just tune in to Connect Culture's YouTube channel at the appropriate time, and you're in.
So, all right, so let's move on to events. What events do we have coming up in the month of April?
Yes, the month of April is full of events, and I love April because it's National Poetry Month, and Connect Culture, Post Art Library, and Pub Pound Press always do this collective, intentional effort to celebrate Poetry Month and the place of poetry in our lives and poets as well. And so we collect a variety of poetry-centric events going on, and then we actually add to it as well. Last year we couldn't do it because of COVID, but we're bringing it back. So there's things like a virtual reading by Harbor Poems, there's 1,000 Words at Spiva Center for the Arts, as well as Poem in Your Pocket Day. But open mic poetry night is one of my favorites. Basically, If you're a poet or you just love poetry, come and recite a poem that you love or one you've written. And so we're asking people to register this time, but that is definitely something to look forward April 23rd.
That is too fun. All right, hey, don't leave. We're going to keep going over some of the stuff happening in the month of April, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, we will be right back here on the KOAM Morning News after this.
Clouds are creeping in on us for Tuesday morning. Our temperature's not too bad. We're already high 50s, even some 60s up there. That's pre-sunrise. Sunrise, by the way, 7:08 over Joplin. Now the wind's still coming in from the south at 20 miles per hour, but this afternoon it'll subside a tad, but it'll switch directions on us and come in from the north and bring us cooler temperatures for the middle of the week. Any rain that we do see late tonight into Wednesday morning is going to be south of I-44 down in the southeast portion of the 4 states. Only the 50s on Wednesday and Thursday with overnight lows dropping into the 30s, but then we're headed right back up to the 60s as we get to Easter weekend, and we're looking at 70 and partly sunny on Sunday.
Kansas moves into the final vaccination phase, how local pharmacies are handling the increased demand. Plus, Missouri enters phase 2 of its vaccination plan. We'll tell you who is eligible and what a proposed use tax could mean for Coral Junction residents.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Well, if we get past this wind, we've got a day in the 60s today. Not too shabby. Here's Michael with a check on your forecast.
Oh, Tanya, it'll be nice when it calms down a little bit. Oh, did it pick up yesterday afternoon? And it's still coming in at 20 miles an hour outside of Television City right there. We don't have the critical fire weather that we experienced yesterday. Our humidity not quite as low. Temperature's not too bad with it working in from the south. Increased cloud cover rolling in. We will go with the red flag warning up in the far northwest. I want to point out the shift of the wind that we're seeing to the northwest as well. Look at that wind gust of Salina. Had 50-mile-an-hour gusts earlier this morning. Topeka still at 45. So it'll get better as it drops down to the southeast. But as it shifts too, that's going to bring us cooler temperatures. We don't see a wide variation right now. It's pretty much mid-50s and even some 60s up there as the jet stream cruises just to the northwest of us. And that's where we see the much cooler temperatures working their way toward the Canadian border. Our weather trend for today going to be able to make it up into the mid-60s even with the cloud cover. Speaking of cloud cover, it'll usher in a little rain for tonight into tomorrow. You're going to have to drop down to the far southeastern portion of the 4 states on the other side of the interstate. Most of it's going to stay through central and northwest Arkansas, and we're not looking at anything severe. Clearing off on Wednesday, but cooler as well. Only in the 50s for daily highs, overnight lows dropping into the 30s right there. Nice thing is, you know, as we get into our first weekend of April, which happens to coincide with Easter weekend, we're talking about looking at nice temperatures on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday, scattered light rain up into the 70s. Don't let that cancel your Easter plans.
Yeah, it should be a nice Easter. We can't complain about that.
I think you brought it up perfectly yesterday when you were talking about why does it always seem like it's either rainy or muddy on Easter. Maybe this year we luck out.
We'll take it.
We're due for some good luck.
It still might be a little muddy. You never know. It probably is. Just think about the white shoes. All right, thanks, Michael. The final phase of the coronavirus vaccine distribution begins in Kansas, making everyone 16 and older eligible for a vaccine. KOAM's Zach Dodge has how a local drugstore is planning to handle things as demand increases once again.
59-year-old Baxter Springs resident Timothy Fish has been waiting for today to come for a while.
I just hope that it's the start of a better future.
At first he had to wait for a vaccine because he wasn't eligible, and then last week he was in the hospital for several days after having a heart attack.
Put a couple stent in, and three and a half days later I got out, and I was ready to get out. Tired of being used as a pincushion.
So he was happy to be a pincushion again on Monday as he finally got that first elusive dose.
I found out while I was here doing something else that I could get it, and I could get it right now. I was like, well, can I do it? And yeah, sure.
We didn't have any doses scheduled, but we had, with the opening up of the new phase, we had a lot of interest.
So owner Brian Caswell put together a small on-the-spot clinic where they would pop open a vial of vaccine if they had at least 10 people commit to coming in before 6 p.m.
It's a little riskier, but I think early in the stage like this, we'll be able to fill up that 10.
Moving forward, they'll keep on putting together clinics based on appointments. But no matter how they do it, Caswell says they're ready to get vaccines into arms.
It just creates this, again, feeling of like liberation, of knowing that, you know, I'm able to make that step to a new normal.
I hope that this gives me some protection, and you got to protect yourselves and everybody else.
In Cherokee County, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
Now, there is a walk-in clinic that's first come, first serve at the Crawford County Fairgrounds this week. It's open to anyone above the age of 18 and is from noon to 6 p.m. tomorrow. And now our local health departments will continue to set up vaccine clinics on an appointment basis. You can find out how to set up an appointment in this story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Oklahoma yesterday entered phase 4 of its COVID-19 vaccine rollout plan, and that means, like Kansas, Oklahoma has now opened vaccines to all residents ages 16 and older. Governor Kevin Stitt and state health officials held a press conference yesterday to discuss the move. The governor says nearly 2 million vaccines have already been distributed in the state. Missouri just entered phase 2 of the state's COVID-19 vaccination eligibility plan. This opened up eligibility to Missourians employed in construction, critical manufacturing, and remaining food sectors. They're also opening it up to those experiencing homelessness. Larry Bergner from the Newton County Health Department explains how those groups will be taken care of.
I know there's a couple of groups that are trying to make contact with some of the homeless, and they'll fill the paperwork out and take care of them as they kind of roam about the community and know where those pockets of homeless people are. They'll go and take care of that group.
On April 9th, Missouri will enter phase 3, opening up eligibility for all adults in the state. Joplin officials held a briefing yesterday to provide an update on COVID-19 vaccine and cases in the city. Officials say they have 160,000 doses of the vaccine ordered and expect everyone in the city to have the opportunity to get one by the end of May. They also touched on the city's finances, saying there are around $200 million in building permits being filed recently, leading to a lot of construction.
Local businesses that have other plants all over the country, maybe even all over the world, where they're getting more output out of their Joplin facilities as they're getting from other places. I think Joplin really has shown our ability to work.
City officials also say Joplin's vaccination rate is at 31% compared to the state average of 24%. Most Kansans and Missourians will soon have to dial all 10 phone number digits when making local calls. The change applies to people living in the area code 620 and 785 in Kansas and 417-314-660 and 816 in Missouri. It's because of an FCC decision last July approving 988 as the new abbreviated number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Callers are encouraged to begin using 10-digit calling for local calls on April 24th as a sort of practice period. Beginning October 24th, callers must use 10-digit dialing or the call will not go through. City of Carl Junction, Missouri reintroduces a use tax. If passed, it would tax online purchases at an amount equal to the city's sales tax, which is 3%. City officials say it's needed to fund improvements to city parks, sidewalks, and streets.
You generate a little bit more revenue for the city. We have several projects that have been ongoing over several years that we just don't have the funds to complete, and we need to get those completed.
Residents can learn more about the proposed use tax at a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. at Randy's Drive-In. It's 6:07.
Well, looking at the national picture here, it's amazing how quiet we are to wrap up March. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. You got to drop down really into Florida to find any Tuesday morning rain. We like that nice high pressure system feeding us some warmer temperatures. Remember, we are going to have increased cloud cover today, and the wind will shift from the south to the north, and that will result in cooler midweek temperatures. But for the most part, any rain that we do see stays south of I-44, light and scattered. And really, it's just a matter of starting April on a chilly note before we warm right back up into the 60s.
Let's look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, something new on tap.
There's a buzz growing around a new kind of bar. I'm Danya Backus with why more people are looking for a drink without alcohol in it.
Plus, as millions of Americans are vaccinated against COVID-19, there are warnings about another wave. A plea from health leaders to remain vigilant. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Money Watch this morning, bars are now able to open up as many COVID restrictions are relaxed, and there are a growing number of establishments that have something new on tap. Danya Backus explains.
At Sands Bar in Austin, Texas, there's live music and people drinking.
It looks like a bar, it sounds like a bar, but there's something about it that's different.
Owner Chris Marshall says the difference is the cocktails. There's no alcohol in them.
75% of people that come into Sands Bar on a regular basis do not identify as being sober or being in recovery. A lot of people just want to drink less. A lot of people are just wanting to socialize without having the hangover.
A few years ago, the Dry January Challenge started gaining popularity. That led to Dry July and Sober October, and now some companies are capitalizing on the trend.
A number of alcohol-free spirits have been released in the past couple of years, and more are popping up on the market, like zero-proof gin and tequila. Joshua James uses them to make booze-free cocktails at his Ocean Beach Cafe in San Francisco, where there's also a selection of alcohol-free beers.
People come in like, you got the non-alcoholic IPAs? I was like, yeah, I got like the best ones.
According to market analysis company IWSR, the public's taste for low and no alcohol beer, wine, and spirits is growing faster than overall alcohol consumption.
So now what we're seeing in terms of consumer trend is really that moderation has become part of the everyday lifestyle.
That lifestyle allows people to socialize with a clear head.
And, I'll wake up without a headache.
Just one reason why this trend is expected to keep growing. Danya Backus, CBS News, Los Angeles.
My recommendation, bring a DD. The Suez Canal is open for business. Ships began moving through the canal again last night. It had been blocked for nearly a week by a container ship that ran aground. A fleet of tugboats managed to dislodge the Ever Given early yesterday. Egyptian authorities say they're hopeful the backlog of 422 ships could be cleared in about 3.5 days. Wow. Gas prices are holding somewhat steadily after rising most of the year. AAA reports the nationwide average is $2.86 for a gallon of regular gasoline. That's down a couple of pennies from this time last week. Overall, the price at the pump has been surging in recent months, up about 15 cents from this time last month. Well, first from Twizzlers, the chewy candy brand is launching its first ever mystery flavor. The company says consumers may have to go through more than a few twists before they guess right. The limited edition flavor will be available nationwide starting this spring. The mystery flavor will be revealed this summer. Oh, that's exciting. The sweet smell of bacon from your feet. What? Oscar Mayer is out with some bacon-scented shoelaces, using its own hardwood smoked bacon for inspiration. Fans can get a super exclusive pair by entering a contest online. 1,500 lucky winners will be chosen next month. I wonder how bacon mixes with stinky feet smell. What a blend. What a blend. Think of that image. That's it for Money Watch. We'll be right back.
Wind's starting to die down a little bit. 6:17 on this Tuesday morning. 57 degrees is where we stand. Still, I got a 20 mile an hour. That's sustained. That's not a gust. That's sustained at Joplin Regional Airport. And that's why we're still hanging on to red flag warnings up in the far northwest because the wind up here has been rather impressive and it's beginning to shift and work in from the north, an indicator that that cold front is approaching. Now, it hasn't quite hit us yet because we're still sitting at 58 in Chanute, 57 in Joplin, and 55 in Monette. So it's actually quite pleasant when you walk outside. Increased cloud cover working down from the north. We're on the dry side for this Tuesday morning. As a matter of fact, not a whole lot of action in the contiguous 48. Starting to develop a little snow line right there on the northwest side of the jet stream and rain down in Florida, but we're lucky. We stay on the southeast portion of this because it's going to grab some cold Canadian air and drop us down to begin March. Wrapping up April though, increased cloud cover, still able to make it up into the mid 60s, but you'll tell we got to top out at noon instead of in the afternoon, and that's when our temperatures begin to fall. We'll see a light scattered rain south of I-44, mostly though through central and northwest Arkansas. So it's well, most of the 4 states going to stay rather dry. That'll take us into Wednesday morning. Now look at these cooler temperatures, especially our overnight lows here for Wednesday and Thursday, as we're going to drop down to 30s overnight. Then we begin our rebound back up into the 60s for Friday and Saturday, and 70 for Easter Sunday. Time now to check back in with our own Jesse Irwin. He's in downtown Joplin to meet up with Connected Culture's Emily Frankowski at the Cornell Complex.
Well, it is a bright and sunny day out here in Joplin, and we are joined this morning by our friend Emily Frankowski with Connected Culture. Emily, we are outside of the future home of Connected Culture, the Cornell Complex, which is not standing just yet, but it's on its way.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to? I know you'll have your own office, you'll have all these different, but like what is the one thing that sort of stuck out in your mind as the exciting element of this project?
I think it will just be super exciting to program for a space that's all our own. Usually we, maybe going to Memorial Hall or going to Joplin High School Performing Arts Center, but it's much easier to plan performances in a space that's all your own, that you know the schedule of. So I think that we're all just looking forward to providing more performances, consistently in a space that's our own.
I can hear them working on your office now.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, I want to go over some of the different classes and exhibits that are happening in the month of April. We've gone over performances, events. What about classes?
Yeah, so a great class that's going on is Spiva in Bloom. And I don't know if you know about Spiva in Bloom, but they always do arrangements, floral arrangements by different florists that are inspired by Photo Spiva. And this is a class that you can learn. So with Justin Thomas of the Wildflower, you'll come to Spiva, they'll have a bunch of flowers, I presume, and then you will work on floral arrangements with a professional florist.
Cool, all right, so that's really fun. And then in terms of, what else do we have going on?
Yeah, so the other thing I've got on the list for us to talk about today is exhibits, and that is Paint in Motion by Philip Ledbetter, and this is an exhibit coming up at Art Central in Carthage. And I know Philip Ledbetter, he's a great guy. I actually know more of his photography work, so this is actually an exhibit of his paintings, so you'll get to kind of see what his paintings are like, and they're in motion, very colorful, a lot of texture to them, so a really fun exhibit to experience.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, we are really looking forward to all of that. We'll have that information on our website. Emily, thanks for hanging out with us.
Of course.
All right, we're going to go check out some of the construction. We'll be right back after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the majority of Americans become eligible for the coronavirus vaccine. As they become eligible, there's a warning from health leaders that the nation could be on the brink of yet another wave. Naomi Ruckham shows us where cases are on the rise and positive news on the vaccine.
At a time when many states are lifting mask mandates and life is starting to return to normal, an emotional plea from the head of the CDC.
I'm speaking today not necessarily as your CDC director, and not only as your CDC director, but as a wife, as a mother, as a daughter, to ask you to just please hold on a little while longer.
Cases nationwide are up more than 10%. Hospitalizations are also on the rise. The fear that the U.S. will follow the trajectory in Europe, where cases are spiking and some hospitals are once again overwhelmed.
I'm going to reflect on the recurring feeling I have of impending doom.
New York and New Jersey are seeing the nation's fastest rise in cases of COVID-19. And while health officials warn a virus variant could fuel new outbreaks here, starting today, all New Yorkers aged 30 and up are eligible for the vaccine. The White House is hoping to get more Americans vaccinated by more than doubling the number of pharmacies offering the shot.
I'm directing my COVID team to ensure there is a vaccine site within 5 miles of 90% of all Americans by April the 19th.
The president is also asking states to reinforce mask mandates and pull back on reopenings.
If we let our guard down now, we could see a virus getting worse, not better.
43 states have allowed most or all businesses to reopen. Nearly 550,000 Americans have now died from the virus, and cases have surpassed 30 million. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
More than 93 million Americans have received at least one dose of the vaccine, and nearly 1 in 5 adults in the U.S. is now fully vaccinated. The administration says they are leaving it up to the private sector to develop vaccine passports or proof of vaccination in order to resume some travel and other activities. The younger a person tries marijuana for the first time, the more likely they are to have issues with substance abuse. And that's according to new research from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. The researchers evaluated data from participants ages 12 to 25 years old. When looking at those who develop substance abuse use disorders within the first 12 months of initiation, adolescents were more likely than young adults to develop problems with smoking pot. Similar trends were found for adolescents misusing prescription drugs. National Institute on Drug Abuse officials say the study shows delaying exposure to drugs until the brain is fully developed may lower the risk for problems in the future. A UK study finds women who lose their vision, hearing, or both are twice as likely to report depression and anxiety compared to men who experience the same issues. Researchers say the data highlights the importance of early screening for women because some sensory loss is preventable or treatable. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Clouds starting to kick in from the north. We are dry right now, so we don't have to worry about any morning precipitation. Temperatures not too bad either, as we are able to stay in the mid 60s, but you'll notice we kind of top out around the noon hour because the wind is going to shift on us and eventually blow in from the north, and that's going to present us with cooler temperatures to open up April. We'll be in the 50s on Wednesday and Thursday with overnight lows dipping into the 30s. Back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Kansas moves into the final vaccination phase, how local pharmacies are handling the increased demand. Plus, Missouri enters phase 2 of its vaccination plan. We'll tell you who is eligible and what a proposed use tax could mean for Carl Junction residents.
The 4 states most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Well, if you're ready to get rid of the wind, you're in store, but we might have some chances of rain on the way. Here's Michael with a check of your forecast.
And the increased cloud cover as well, Tanya, but I think this is going to provide just a gorgeous, gorgeous Tuesday morning sunset. Live look outside of Television City. We're beginning to lighten up just a little bit. We're still about 38 minutes away from sunrise officially. Now the wind coming in at 20 miles per hour, but as Tanya mentioned, we're going to get a little bit of a break from it here as we progress through the morning. Clean Skywatch Storm Tracker precipitation-wise, there's the clouds that have moved in from the north. Still have a red flag warning for the far northwestern portion moving up through Kansas and Nebraska. Big thing is the wind shifting. It'll die down as it shifts, but still, look at what we're picking up in Topeka and Salina as it works in from their north. We've got the mild temperatures this morning, but our temperatures are going to drop here for the afternoon as it comes around from the north. 57 in Joplin, 52 in Independence, and 58 in both Nevada and in Fort Scott. Here's your definitive line where the trough of the jet streams grabbing that cold Canadian air, much cooler up in the Pacific Northwest all the way through the Rockies compared to what we're seeing. We're right there with DFW on a Tuesday morning at the end of March. Can't beat that. Up into the mid 60s here later on. So that's about where we top out instead of the afternoon, kind of max out about the noon hour. And then for our slight chances of rain, mainly south of I-44, it's going to be the far southeastern portion of the 4 states. And really, it's going to dominate central and northwest Arkansas. We're not going to get a whole lot of it. It kind of rolls through into Wednesday morning, got some Gulf moisture right there. But I think the big thing to talk about with April is the cooler temperatures to start off with, especially our overnight lows dropping down into the 30s. But we're right back into the 60s there to close out the week and head into the weekend. Easter Sunday, 70 degrees, partly sunny skies, and a slight chance of rain. It's not going to be a washout. It's going to be gorgeous.
Good time to search for some eggs. too muddy.
I
We keep saying that.
I really think that
Hope we're not
everybody's... Say what?
jinxing ourselves by keep saying that.
Trust me, every time I open my mouth over here about Easter Sunday, I'm like, Mother Nature, don't, because I think it's going to be great for Easter egg hunts.
Yeah, I hope so. Let's do it.
Oh, especially for parents, because you're not going to have 8 layers on standing there watching your kids. I mean, it's not going to be too bad.
That's good. That's a big plus. All right, thanks, Michael. State of Kansas moved into the last phase of the coronavirus vaccine distribution, and that means everyone in the state 16 years and older is now eligible for the vaccine. Walker Drug in Baxter Springs yesterday held a small vaccine clinic, something they originally hadn't planned on doing, but chose to do after getting calls from people interested in the vaccine. Many of our local health departments will continue to offer vaccine clinics that are appointment-based.
But at some point, if the numbers don't sustain the number of people that it takes to put that on, then we'll probably explore some different options, whether that's in-house vaccinations at the health department or going to different locations throughout the county, kind of a scaled down version of what we're doing currently.
A few walk-in clinics are scheduled in Crawford County this week, and we'll have more information about those on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Missouri just entered phase 2 of the state's COVID-19 vaccination eligibility plan, and this opened up eligibility to Missourians employed in construction, critical manufacturing, and remaining food sectors. They're also opening it up to those experiencing homelessness. Larry Bergner from the Newton County Health Department explains how those groups will be taken care of.
A couple of groups that are trying to make contact with some of the homeless, and they'll fill the paperwork out and take care of them as they kind of roam about the community and know where those pockets of homeless people are. They'll go and take care of that group.
On April 9th, Missouri will enter phase 3, opening up eligibility for all adults in the state. City of Carl Junction, Missouri is reintroducing a use tax. If passed, it would tax online purchases at an amount equal to the city's sales tax, which is 3%. City officials say it's needed to fund improvements to city parks, sidewalks, and streets.
To generate a little bit more revenue for the city, we have several projects that have been ongoing over several years that we just don't have the funds to complete, and we need to get those completed.
Residents can learn more about the proposed use tax at a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. at Randy's Drive-In. A verdict Monday in the case of 3 St. Louis police officers accused of beating a colleague. The fellow officer was working undercover as a protester in 2017. Friends of that officer say they're unhappy with the outcome of the trial and believe race played a factor. Mike Bush reports.
As the 3 defendants left the federal courthouse, they were silent, but their attorneys were not.
We're ecstatic that he can return to the St. Louis City Police Department if he so chooses, and he can remain a person with a reputation intact.
There were no convictions for the officers accused of assaulting Luther Hall, but it wasn't a complete acquittal either. Jurors found Officer Stephen Cordy, still with SLMPD, not guilty on both charges of deprivation of civil rights and lying to the FBI. But former Officer Dustin Boone's charge, deprivation of civil rights, was ruled a mistrial. Former Officer Christopher Myers was acquitted of the same deprivation count, but jurors couldn't agree on whether he destroyed evidence. That charge, too, was ruled a mistrial.
We're thrilled. We never believed for a second that Mr. Myers was involved in the deprivation of civil rights of Luther Hall or anyone else.
Hall's friends say the trial, with evidence from text messages and video the night he was arrested, sparked racial tensions in the community. Only one black juror was seated on the case, and Hall's friends say this verdict was anything but just.
And today, a jury that was comprised of mostly white males and white women made a decision, ignored evidence, and we're left to settle with it.
That's a look at today's top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, day 2 of Derrick Chauvin's trial.
Lawyers in the trial against the former police officer accused of killing George Floyd debate how he died. I'm Skyler Henry in Minneapolis with the details and a look ahead to day 2 of the Derrick Chauvin trial.
Plus, it's National Doctors Day. For our Something to Talk About, we're asking, are there any doctors you would like to recognize? We let you weigh in. But first, it's 6:37.
Half an hour away from sunrise as the glowing orb tries to beat the incoming cloud cover. Staying on the dry side, up into the mid-60s. Slight chance for rain overnight, mainly for the southeastern portion of the 4 states. Wind shifting. Going to come in from the north later this afternoon and drop us down for a chilly middle of the week. We'll be back with Nation Watch next.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, the Derrick Chauvin trial began in dramatic fashion in Minnesota with statements, testimony, and video that was at times hard to see and hear. Former police officer is charged with killing George Floyd last May. Skylar Henry reports from Minneapolis.
Prosecutors did not mince words as they laid out their case against former police officer Derrick Chauvin.
I would tell you that you can believe your eyes, that it's a homicide, it's murder.
The trial's first day featured opening statements from both sides. The prosecution played for the jury the cell phone video showing George Floyd gasping for air.
He put his knees upon his neck and his back, grinding and crushing him until the very breath. No, ladies and gentlemen, until the very life were squeezed out of him.
The defense offered a very different take on what happened.
And you will learn that Derrick Chauvin did exactly what he had been trained to do over the course of his 19-year career.
Defense attorney Eric Nelson said Floyd's death was the result of drug abuse and an underlying heart condition.
The evidence is far greater than 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
Day one also included the trial's first witnesses, among them a 911 operator who watched Floyd's arrest on surveillance videos, who initially thought the cameras had frozen because the restraint had gone on so long.
That dispatcher says she then called the police on the police, something she had never done before.
And my instincts were telling me that something's wrong. Something is not right. I don't know what, but something wasn't right.
Chauvin is charged with second and third degree murder, as well as second degree manslaughter. He's pleaded not guilty. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Minneapolis.
If convicted of second-degree murder, Chauvin faces up to 40 years in prison. He faces up to 25 years if convicted of third-degree murder and up to 10 years if convicted of second-degree manslaughter. The San Antonio Freeman Expo in Texas is now open as a 6th emergency shelter for migrant children and received 500 teen boys yesterday evening. The federal government says more than 13,000 migrant children are currently in shelters and emergency sites. An additional 5,700 children are being held in short-term Border Patrol facilities. According to NASA, asteroid 99942 Apophis won't impact our planet. The roughly 1,100-foot space rock was discovered in 2004. Scientists immediately worried it could strike Earth during a pass in the year 2029. Now, further study of its orbit around the sun ruled that out, and then ruled out a hit in the year 2036. Oh, thank goodness. But researchers still worried it could crash into Earth in the year 2068. New analysis using radar observations snuffed out the possibility of impact on that pass as well. Scientists say they don't see the asteroid hitting Earth anytime within the next 100 years. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael with our Something to Talk About. You know, Michael, Bruce Willis did not get named one of top 5 sexiest bald men. But maybe that could change if he has to take care of an asteroid.
I'm just breathing easy after your asteroid story.
I know.
I feel better.
What? We're still worried about the year, what, 2068?
Yes.
Will Mr. Willis still be around?
Yeah. Okay. Hayslip may be hanging on then. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I don't know if we'll see if I make it that far. National Doctor Day, Tanya, asking if you'd like to recognize a physician in your life. John Tribune, Dr. John Cox. Dr. John Cox is John's cardiologist. He says, great man, wonderful doctor. Good morning, KOAM. Good morning, America. Good morning, John. Dorian Klaus, Dr. Ernest Holmes, pediatrician for my kids and now grandkids. Says, great man. Michael Arrowwood wants to thank Dr. Hansen for letting him get his medical marijuana card in Missouri. Michael says helps out with his epilepsy. And Eric Venter wants to recognize Dr. John Venter. That's Eric's dad. Eric says that Dr. Venter's currently on the COVID long-term aftercare team at Mercy in Carthage and has been an area pulmonologist for most of Eric's life. Caps it off by saying, "This man is a hero to me." Eric, thank you very much for sharing that about your father. We'll roll some more of your comments here. We're going to come back and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries next.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Christopher Pursley, a member of the United States Army. He served from 2002 to 2004. His hometown, Carthage, Missouri. We are proud to salute Christopher Pursley, our four-state hero.
Our birthday list begins with Axel McQuiston as he celebrates number 2 behind the wheel of his ship. Aye, Captain. Happy birthday, Axel in Pittsburgh.
All right, and Anna's son is turning 3 years old. Look at her in those shades. I love it. Love Mom, Dad, Abram, and Miles. Happy birthday, Anna.
That's a good look, Anna. Avery Harrison, she is celebrating her 15th birthday. Purple Dragon Pride, and happy birthday to Avery in Pittsburgh.
All right. Hillary Mahoney in Carl Junction is turning 29 years old. Oh, look at that sweet one in her arms. What a great picture. Great smile there, Hillary. Happy birthday.
A pair of 4s on the board for Joel Miller. Oh, Tanya, check that out. Tanya, by the way, an infinitely better axe thrower than me, Joel. I would like to see you two square off. A happy birthday to Joel in Seneca.
I like to do it one-handed, too. Fun. Anyway, Mike Bogle is 69 years old in Chanute. Looks like we got a Jayhawk fan there. Having fun there. Happy birthday, Mike.
And this is the younger brother of our own graphic artist, Will York. Nice. A good picture right there, Wayne. A happy 23 to Wayne York in Columbus. One more to pass along.
Happy birthday, Wayne. Yeah, because
in the bus. Who we got, Tanya?
Kenneth Strickland, turning 85 years old today. Happy birthday, Kenneth. Hope it's a great one.
Mr. Strickland. Here's where you can send them into. Birthdays at KOAMTV.com, or if you'd like to go to our website, KOAMNewsNow.com/birthdays. And a happy birthday to all of you celebrating on this March the 30th. Now over to Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. If you use that website technique for submission, you can also be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is sign up, and then you'll get special deals from local businesses. That's a good birthday prize in itself. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
If you're celebrating on this Tuesday morning, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous start. Cloud cover going to give us marvelous colors here as we get ready to wrap up the end of the month and turn to April. 57 degrees is where we stand right now. We still do have a red flag warning in effect up in the far northwest, but we're seeing the winds calm down a little bit from what we had yesterday. Man, yesterday just got on it. And also shifting. Look at the north arrows up there. And Topeka and Salina, though Wichita in there, registering 40-mile-an-hour gusts still. Haven't seen much of our temperatures drop as of yet. We'll kind of top out around the noon hour before the colder air and the shift to the north wind makes its way through. So we're mid to high 50s. There's our cloud cover, but we stay on the dry side right now. And as we watch the jet stream, you'll notice how it's going to grab that cooler Canadian air and drop it down on us for the last day. Tomorrow being, of course, the last day of March and the beginning of April. But we're in store for a great looking weekend. What we're going to do is roll back-to-back days in the 50s, and overnight lows will drop into the 30s. But look at this rebound for Friday, Saturday, and Easter Sunday. Making our way back up into the 60s. And Sunday, even with that slight chance of rain, it's going to be a great day to let the kiddos do some Easter egg hunting. It's going to end up being around 70 degrees, mostly sunny skies. Like I said, just some scattered morning rain. Don't let that. Don't plan on that affecting your Easter egg hunts or anything like that. And then we can turn our attention to some thunderstorm activity on next Monday. We'll be back and wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News right after this. Let's take some time and honor some of our 4-state physicians on this Doctor's Day. Guy Hansen wants to recognize Dr. Michael Joseph and Dr. Rick Purcell. Guy says can't mention them without mentioning their entire great staff from the manager to the janitor. Lisa Darnell shouting out to everybody with a happy Doctor's Day. Rick Norton, Dr. Garner, always there to treat and heal my injuries. Rick says I kind of keep her busy. She's marvelous. Dr. Bill from Colleen McGuire in Frontenac and Dr. Satterwhite up at KU Med Center. Colleen says my pulmonary hypertension specialist who treats my rare CTE-PH condition. Dave Pitts, Dr. Gellender, here we go, keeping me alive since '95. Thank you, Dave. Jeremy Davis, and hey, I do the crew too, Jeremy. And Candy Westoff wants to recognize Dr. Lisa Salvador at GMC. Candy says, Dr. Salvador always listens to me even when I wait way longer than I should to come in. She goes the extra mile to figure things out and find someone who can. Thanks, Dr. Salvador. Thank you to all of our 4-state physicians who keep us so healthy and do just such a marvelous job. Shout out Jackie Ornder. Hazlett family couldn't do it without her.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The head of the CDC is pleading for Americans to not let their guards down just yet. As coronavirus cases climb in at least half the country, 17 states have erased their mask mandates. President Biden is asking governors to consider reinstating them. The state of Kansas moved into the last phase of coronavirus vaccine distribution, and that means everyone in the state 16 years and older is now eligible for the vaccine. Walker Drug in Baxter Springs yesterday held a small vaccine clinic, something they hadn't originally planned on doing, but chose to do after getting calls from people interested in the vaccine. And many of our local health departments will continue to offer vaccine clinics that are appointment-based. A few walk-in clinics are scheduled in Crawford County this week. 800,000 more Missourians are eligible for COVID-19 vaccines. Missouri yesterday entered phase 2 of the state's COVID-19 vaccination eligibility plan. This opens up eligibility to Missourians employed in construction, critical manufacturing, and remaining food sectors, and includes those working in restaurants. On April 9th, Missouri will enter phase 3, opening up eligibility for all adults in the state. City of Carl Junction, Missouri is reintroducing a use tax. If passed, it would tax online purchases at an amount equal to the city's sales tax, which is 3%. City officials say it's needed to fund improvements to city parks, sidewalks, and streets. Residents can learn more about the proposed use tax at a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. at Randy's Drive-In. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Still windy out there coming in from the south. Big factor of the wind is when it shifts and brings in a cold front, as it'll pick up from the north 10 to 20 miles an hour overnight. Any rain that we do see is going to stay to the far southeastern portion of the 4 states south of I-44. Cooler temperatures for the last day of March and the first day of April, being Wednesday and Thursday. But then we're right back into the 60s, headed into what looks like a gorgeous Easter Sunday.
Hey, can I give a quick shout out
to
my doctor, Dr. Daniel Kane in Pittsburgh, Kansas, has been our family physician for 15 years, delivered all my boys as well.
Dr. Kane's awesome dude.
Yes.
Awesome dude.
Coming up today at noon, we're making bacon and horseradish deviled eggs in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Morning news continues. We're going to flip on over to Fox 14. Please join us over there. We'll bring you all the latest and update these wind conditions. I want you to have a great, safe Tuesday. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.